Hey everybody, welcome back to another Author Pep Talk here at AutoCrit. How is everybody doing today? We got so many people on. Hello, welcome. Where is all of our Novel 90 participants at? Welcome. Hello. Hey everybody. Okay. Well, we're excited because today we're going to talk about dreaming big, but focusing on the now. Now, I know you might be thinking for a minute, wait a minute, didn't you just tell us to dream big, to find our why, and all that stuff just a couple weeks ago? And the answer is an absolute yes. We want you to have your why in your hand and ready to motivate you through your challenge, through your writing journey. But we don't want that to throttle your forward progress as of now. So today we are going to be talking about dreaming big, focusing on the now, getting to our dreams by being purposeful and mindful of the things we're doing in this immediate moment. 90-Day Novel and Pantser, that's you. Well, welcome. If you are just now joining, my name is Katherine. I'm a member of the AutoCrit editing team, and I'm also a coach for Team Pantser in the Novel 90 Writing Challenge that is running right now. So you can sign up at the link that we are putting in the chat right here for the fall. If you would like to join, but need that extra planning month, you can pre-register for the spring. So go to that same link, go up to the top and click Spring 2026 and go ahead and pre-register, and then keep coming. Start working on that outline. Give yourself a foot up going into the challenge. All right. Hey there, everybody. Hey. Okay. So what are we talking about exactly today then? Since I'm telling you, don't throw away your big why, your motivation. We are talking about the effort mentally and emotionally in chasing a dream to the point where it could over prioritize the dream instead of what is going to make that dream happen. So dreams may make up our big why, but motivation is another thing entirely. There's motivation and there's inspiration, and there are, your big goals, your big dreams. So what are some examples of your big why? If you've taken the time to think about it and maybe even share it in Basecamp and you're comfortable sharing here. What is your big why? Why did you decide to do this challenge? Why did you decide to write this book, to publish this book? What is it we want in the end? Now, when I started out, I wanted the world to know about my stories, right? That was one of my big whys. I didn't just want to write and let the book sit on the shelf. I wanted to connect with other readers who needed that kind of journey to go along on. But I also just can't help but write. And there was a long time where I struggled between, do I write for a living? Do I edit for a living? Do I write as a hobby? Because all of these are legitimate choices that we talked about in the Finding Our Why pep talk. Exactly. Because life without writing is just life, and that's nowhere near enough to go on, right? A lot of us are chasing this big why. Now, I caution us, that's where we're going to be talking about balance today. Balance is our big takeaway from today. Where I caution you on that big why is to not let that big why tune out everything that you need to be doing today. If your big picture dream becomes the primary focus instead of what you need to get done to get there, the bigger that dream is, the more overwhelming it can feel. If you come into this with your why because you want to connect with readers, then that's one level of stress and pressure, making sure that readers are going to connect with your work and how to reach them and how to find them, right? But if your goal is, I'm going to pay my bills with this, this is going to be my livelihood. Therefore, if I can't do this well, I will have no job and I will have no food and my family will not get their bills paid. That adds a lot of stress. And that's a lot to put on yourself, especially if you are just now starting out for the very first time, right? So the bigger the dream, the more overwhelming it can feel. And if it feels more overwhelming than it does inspirational, then having it at the forefront of your mind may not be serving you. That is something that you should then peg into the board on the side. And let's focus on today. Let's focus on the things we can control now, not the things coming up 5 years from now or 10 years from now or 30 years from now. Let's focus on this moment today and what we can work on for our books today. Prioritization is framed by our focus. So I want you to think about something that you absolutely cannot get off of your head. We were talking about K-pop Demon Hunters in one of our writing sprints this week, and how, it's been hard to bounce back if you fell into that bandwagon of getting all the songs in the story. You think about it all the time, and you're finding ways to turn the music on in your ear pods, right? It's just playing, and you're thinking about the songs, and you're trying to watch little snippets. Meanwhile, your other things that fit into that optional chunk of time are not getting done, right? And it doesn't just have to be a cool TV show. It can be another hobby. It can be really serious life things that you have to handle that are not things that can be put off, right? Prioritization is framed by what we focus on. So in writing, it's the same. If your focus is on the day you walk in as the well-known author and you take a seat on this big TV show because your book is being turned into a movie, your focus could become so tunnel vision, squirreling off to look into potential TED Talks for your nonfiction, or find other opportunities, that you forget we have to actually get the work done to get there. And I know that sounds like common sense, but we get excited, and it's good to be excited. And our priorities shift because we are focused on the big picture a bit too much. If you focus more on your big why than on today, you can also overcommit and set unrealistic expectations for yourself. If you say, a year from now, I'm going to be making a full-time living off of my books, you could be setting yourself up for an uphill battle, because so many things are subjective about that process. The way you decide you want to go query or self-publish, the genre you write, how fast you can actually write, the time that you have to give in as opposed to what is paying your bills today, your family and friend obligations, the fact that we are mortal and need to sleep and drink coffee to get this all done. All of these things are part of what makes the path to get to the big dream. But having the big dream set an unrealistic expectation can get us to overcommit, and then we start to doubt ourselves. Our imposter syndrome demon flares up, and we start to feel like, I'm failing. And we're already hearing it from some participants in the challenge. They feel like they're failing. Guys, we're not even through the planning month. We're not even to the writing phase yet. And most likely, if you're anything like me, one of the biggest reasons you feel like you're failing is because of the expectations you set on yourself coming in. I expected myself to be at this specific spot by today, and I am not there. Therefore, this challenge was a waste and I have failed. I urge you, I encourage you, I love you guys. Please stop and think for just a minute. Can we be flexible? Can we bring the now back into focus so that we don't lose track? We can still make this happen. It is early in the challenge. You could join this challenge today and still have a complete novel at the end of December. It can be done. We believe in you. We are here to help you get there, right? But you have to believe in you, and you have to give yourself grace, and you have to manage those expectations and not let some futuristic dream, an ideal dream, decide what you are going to accomplish in the moment. And then lastly, if we allow the big dream to be our primary motivator over the process that needs to be done to get us to it instead, it doesn't anchor us. It keeps us floating around in vague future. It does not anchor us today. We can't find what we should be doing right this second. So, the solution to this, which sounds so easy to say, but I feel in the depths of my soul the difficulty in making it happen, is balance. Balancing our why with our SMART goals for the present. So, balancing that future dream. I'm going to be a full-time author. I'm going to pay my bills with this. My books are going to be movies, and making it something that we can build and get to realistically. So, we're going to do this by starting from the ground up instead of the sky down. If you are coming into this with a big dream, you may be starting at the sky. I'm going to be a movie star author, right? I'm going to star in my own film from the book I wrote. I know, big dreams, right? I'm going to be a movie star author. How do I get there? Well, then I've got to get a deal. I get that deal by being signed by a renowned agent. I get that agent by doing XYZ. And we start at the top and we work backwards. And this can actually set up those unrealistic expectations we were just talking about on the prior slide. We come into this with the highest of hopes and the most optimism, and we don't always factor in if we're starting at the sky when life happens, when an illness sets in, when job loss happens, when loved ones pass away. We have to adjust later on to those things. And if we were not flexible enough going in, then we have more difficulty seeing this journey through. So start building from the ground up. I want to pay my bills with this book one day. So what does that look like? Let's start at the beginning. I have to have a book. Start there. There must be a book. So what goes into building the book? Outlines, if you're planners or Pantsers, we're going to then draft, and then I need to learn how to edit or hire editors, and then I need to learn to format, and then I need to make up my mind on whether or not I'm going to trad publish or indie publish. If you indie publish, you now have to learn to publish, to market, to put your books on retailer shelves, and start building your path that way. That way you can see one step in front of the other and you can create more realistic goals. How long will it take me to finish an outline? I don't know. I've never done one before. So let's start here and see how long it takes. And then I'll know for future books. And then you can say, today I want to plan chapter 1 through 5 of the book. That's a SMART goal. It's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's time bound. We can take it and make something happen that day. And if the first 5 chapters came like that, we can do extra. And then we can adjust our timeline. It's easier to give yourself less time as you go through the process than it is to add in time later. I love that. You are not a falling star. You are the rising moon. Yeah, you have your plot talking about being a pantser, and then your characters change roles. And so for us pantsers, maybe we don't start with the outline, right? We open a blank page and we say, today I am writing 5 scenes, whatever inspires me. And you write those 5 scenes. And then we compile these scenes together into a book. And then we can say, it's time to learn to edit. And I'm going to take a 30-day editing class to learn to edit. And this way we are paving the road for realistic expectations. We're building our journey from the ground up and filling in missing pieces going up. The other big thing to this is we don't know what we don't know until we are going down this path. If you want to be a full-time writer for a living, there are going to be things you have to learn that you don't know you will have to learn yet. And if you start at the beginning, you can push out space to learn that thing when it comes knocking. If you start at the top and work down, you're on a timeline crunch from the start, and there is no real room to learn something else, and you may end up having to hire out to plug that gap. So I highly encourage those of us dreamers on the call, start building from the ground up and try not to start from the sky down and think, oh, in a year I could be doing XYZ. Let's start at the ground. Let's start planning this out. and see how long it is going to take us to get through this journey naturally. A forced book will feel forced. Your readers will feel it, and your quality will suffer for it. Reward yourself with permission to plan for the future after today's SMART goals are achieved. If your SMART goal for today is to write 5 scenes in your pantsed book, then what you need to do is write your 5 scenes in the pantsed book before you do anything else bookish. And then you can allow yourself that carrot on the end of the string. Write another book that's got your interest. Go work on social media posts for your author page. Start connecting with other indie authors who write what you do if you're going to go indie and support their books. Read a little bit. Do other things that also build your author journey if that is part of your plan. Now, if you're writing as a hobbyist, then just enjoy it. There is nothing wrong with writing for a hobby. And sometimes trying to give ourselves reasons to justify our writing as a hobby is more defeating than anything else. It is okay to do something solely because you enjoy the act of doing it, whether somebody else ever reads it or not. All right. Seek out community. These kinds of long-term marathon goals are not things that are just going to be a quick sprint and done. This is a train that never ends. We get on this train. If you're going to be, publishing for a living, you get on this train and there's going to be a temptation to sprint into it. I'm not going to sleep right. I'm not going to eat all the time like I'm supposed to. Everything's going to go into this book. And the moment it comes out, I'll be okay and I'll be normal. But then you need a second book. Then you need a third book. Then you need a fourth book. And that is what leads to the post-publication slump for many people, is they approached their first book like a sprint and they burned themselves into the ground. And when the first book came out, they had no second book waiting in the wings to put on pre-order or to shift readers to. And they're so tired, they have nothing else left. Community can help keep you grounded. A good, encouraging community lifts you up, but also makes sure that you are focused on everything that you need to be focused on, right? I joined AutoCrit because this community keeps me grounded. Because I can go in there and say, hey, you guys, I'm going to do XYZ. And then the community will come back and go, have you thought about this or that? Oh, that's a great idea. Maybe you should give yourself extra time, right? People who are honest, but who are also kind and don't chop you down just for the sake of chopping you down. They need to hold your feet to the fire in writing terms, keep you accountable, but also encourage you to be realistic when you really have overstretched. Flexibility is key here. Being able to give yourself extra time if it's required, giving yourself the ability to stop and learn something new, to accept when this isn't what you thought. You get into this and maybe you realize, oh, I don't want to write for a living. That's okay. You can still write for yourself. That's fine. That's valid. You get into this and you go, oh, I hate editing. I think I'm just going to hire somebody. That's okay. That's fine. That's what editors are there for. You get into this and you want to learn to edit to save yourself the money, save yourself the time, but it's going to add time to learn how to do. That's fine too. You have to be flexible. If you cannot be flexible, you will not be teachable, and it is hard to succeed in this journey. Not impossible, but hard to succeed in this journey if you cannot adjust and adapt to what is thrown your way. All right. I've put a screen here, what balance looks like. So I'm going to make it a little bigger. That way everybody can hopefully read it just fine. On the left-hand side, we have some big whys that we've pulled from your submissions in Basecamp. And then we've countered this with the nows, the things that have to take place to get to these big whys. Dream, be a best-selling author. Dream, sell media rights to their work. Dream, get invited to author events as guests. Dream, make a full-time living off of their books. To achieve any of these things, we have to focus on the now. Finish your outline if you're an outliner before you start writing the book, unless you're a Pantser, in which case you can do both. Start writing and actually finish the book. One of the wisest friends in my circle tells me all the time when I get ahead of myself, Katherine, let's write the book before we announce it to readers. Katherine, let's write the book before we do any marketing for it. Because she, in all her wisdom, knows that life happens. And when it does, it can hit hard. And it's better to surprise readers with an unexpected book than to leave them disappointed because you couldn't follow through. So actually write the book, then edit the book, then decide on your publishing path. And there's lots of steps in each of these buckets that make up all of this. So finishing your outline could mean fleshing out characters and world building and plot points. Right? And then if we want to edit the book, we have developmental editing, we have line editing, we have copy editing, we have proofreading, we have all these steps inside the now. So what I suggest you do if you really, really want to balance well is give yourself a couple days, maybe take a weekend and sit down and go, here is my big dream. Here's everything I have to do to achieve this dream. Build it ground up. Start at the beginning, outline, build, plug in your gap. Give yourself an estimated timeline with cushion. Give yourself an extra 1 to 2 month cushion every year if you can to factor in the worst possible worst in case you cannot do your bookish things. Then go over to your nows and say, what are the steps for me personally to get this project done today? And those are the ones you prioritize. You can scatter in as your carrots, your rewards for finishing your now checklist. You can scatter in those dream goals alongside your now goals, but the now goals are the ones that should be front and center focus. Try to put the blinders on. Remember, the blinders keep the horses going on the path they're supposed to go, getting the job done. Put your blinders on to the dream stuff, except for the things you allowed yourself to sprinkle into your goals for that day. That way you are going straight toward your end goal. You will get to that dream goal if you can commit and show up and put in the work. And then you have those rewards that will help build. So I know this is a lot. And I do struggle, and I feel like Kat and Becca on the team, we struggle for balance because balance requires us to be flexible, because sometimes balance is easier to find than other times in life. So if you're down and you feel like all of this sounds overwhelming, let's start small. Let's pick one small beginner goal at the very, very bottom. Outline or Pantsers, writing a scene today. Let's do that. Can you give your book 10 minutes or 15 minutes? Then we need to add up. For the authors who want this to be a full-time job, if you treat this like a hobby, it's going to pay you like a hobby. If you decide you want to make a full-time living at some point, you do have to put in more hours. It's going to be really hard to make a full-time living if you can only give your books 10 to 15 minutes a day. But you can start with 10 to 15 minutes a day and then build from there. Add in a little extra time, add in a little more time, start selling books, start subsidizing that income with your book royalties. And then you can work less hours at the big corporate job, and then you can work more on books. And then you can even yourself out that way. That is something that both Kat and I have experienced in this journey, doing at one point, writing as a job and another job as a job to pay the bills and also to find our footing in this industry. So if you want to write for business, let's start at the bottom. Let's work up those realistic goals. If you are here because you love to write, give yourself bloody permission to write and just love it. And don't worry about making it make sense. It doesn't have to. People have all kinds of hobbies, and it's okay. Not everything you do has to be commercialized to make it worth doing. All right. Any questions before we hop off of our pep talk today? We're coming up here on our 30-minute mark. Oh, thank you so much for the shout out about your courses. It is a job. Yep. Treat it like one and it will be part of your career. So if you want to write for a living, it's a job. If you want to just enjoy writing, then enjoy your writing and don't worry about trying to force it into being a job when it doesn't have to be. It can be something that just makes you happy or gives you a creative outlet. All right, you guys, I'm proud of you. I encourage you. We're coming up on Writing Month here in Novel 90. I encourage you to sit down before Writing Month hits and start planning out your SMART goals for yourself. Start trying to put those blinders on. Give yourself that list of carrot goals for your big picture dreams so that you can achieve writing this full-length novel, in the month of November. We want to hear how everything goes for you. So check in with us. We are going to be having team check-ins here in Novel 90 throughout the week. So very excited just to see you guys on Zoom. Those events are all on the AutoCrit calendar. Take care, everyone. Bye.